Hello, everybody. Well, you know, the last couple of times we have been talking about non-precision approaches, and today we'd like to look at some non-precision approach flying techniques. Yep, that's right. You are back in the instrument rating course at the Epic Flight Academy in beautiful New Smyrna Beach, Florida. And thank you for tuning into these videos. But to be successful, there are 3 requirements. Number 1, you want to be enrolled in Epic's online course and reviewing this material online. Number 2, watching these videos. Way to go. Hit that subscribe. And number 3, of course, as always, review all of this content one-on-one with your CFII instrument flight instructor. So what about some of these non-precision approach techniques? Now, with an MDA, a minimum descent altitude, as we already know, we can descend at the final approach fix down to the MDA. And we can really descend at whatever rate of descent the pilot prefers. Now, you can calculate this rate of descent by using distance, ground speed, and or a glide path angle. Once you reach the MDA, you maintain that until at the missed approach point, the missed approach must be executed. Now, if you take a look at our graphic here, we're going to show you 3 different techniques to get down to the MDA. The first one you see here in green. This is an 800 foot per minute descent rate, which is fairly high. And I want you to review these techniques with your flight instructor. This is commonly called dive and drive. And it's not really our best choice. However, it is an option. The second one here is the yellow path. Now, we've calculated a rate of descent that will bring us to the MDA at the missed approach point. Well, that's a very stable approach at 300 feet per minute. However, it may make it more difficult to locate and identify that runway if I'm not down to my MDA until I'm all the way out to that missed approach point. So really, my best option typically lies somewhere in between. And you can see that here in our black descent angle. We're coming down from Kieck, that's our final approach fix, down to the minimum descent angle and flying for a short while until we either see runway 29 or if we don't, we'll execute the missed approach. So because we have these different techniques and because we're flying along at the MDA, in recent years, the FAA and pilots have started to introduce and use what we call the VDP and the PUP, or the pup. Oh, look, there he is, that cute little puppy. Oh, what a nice pup. No, that's not the pup we're talking about. The VDP is the visual descent point, and the PUP is the pull up point. Now, the VDP represents the optimum descent point where if you began the descent to the runway, you would be at typically pretty close to a 3.0 degree angle. The PUP, or pull-up point, represents the closest point to the runway that a descent and landing could be made using normal maneuvers. And the descent angle there would be about 6 degrees, and that would put us at or close to 1,000 foot per minute descent. The area in between the VDP and the PUP is what we call the descent window. Now, the VDP may be depicted on your instrument approach procedure chart. The PUP is never published. Passing the PUP would result in a descent greater than 1,000 feet per minute to the runway. And at those rates of descent, your approach would be considered unstable. At this point, you would be considered not in compliance with 91-175. And you would not be making an approach to land. You would recover the aircraft to a stable flight condition and initiate the go-around. So you can see on our graphic, somewhere between the VDP and the PUP is the descent window. Now, to calculate the VDP or the PUP, there's a couple of very simple formulas. And here you can see the VDP equals the hat divided by 300. There's a variety of possible hats I could be wearing. No. What's the hat? The height above touchdown. So where do I get that? From the instrument approach plate itself. I divide that by 300 and I get my VDP. Now, if I take the hat and divide by 600, I get my PUP. While these points are not legally the missed approach point, you should be prepared to go missed if you pass the PUP or the PUP. Now, sometimes the VDP will be published. And if and when it is published, it is depicted by this symbol. And you can see that here, a large, bold V. So let's wrap up talking briefly about approach profiles. Profiles are incredibly important. Outside of general aviation flying, you'll have profiles for pretty much everything. Profiles are standard operating procedure, and they will help you stabilize the aircraft on an initial approach procedure and help you maintain your situational awareness. Here's an example of a non-precision approach profile and some of the callouts on that profile. You see, we make a call out at the final approach fix. We make a call out for 1,000 feet above the MDA, 500 above, 100 above, and when we hit minimums or we are at MDA, we make a call out there. We'll make a call out for the VDP and the missed approach point. This is an example of a profile. I want you to review this with your flight instructor. Well, folks, that wraps up our presentation for non-precision approach procedures. Join us next time.